Hi there, it's Michelle from CNC Designs. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in New Zealand, and I wanted to show you today how to do a cute little booklet, multi-page booklet here. Now this is made from one A4 piece of paper or cardstock. I originally learned how to make this when I was a brownie leader, and we printed on the A4 paper on all the different page sections, the brownie oath and rules and all those promises, etc. So brownies could keep it in their pocket and be able to refer to it, and even the brownie song. So it was quite a good little thing to have. So this time I've actually created a card using Stampin' Up! Products. So this one here, which I made yesterday, I used the Under My Umbrella stamp set, and I used the matching umbrella builder punch. A little bit of sunlight coming through there. So that cuts out these images. It also cuts out the images that were on the designer series paper that was available during the celebration time. Whoop. And I used the images from the Beautiful You set as well, because with the lady with the umbrella and some of these go quite well for the little booklet I made. So it's not a card. It is made with cardstock, but it's not a card. It's just a booklet to share your feelings with someone. You can leave space in there if you want to write on there, or there is space on the back. I've left space there. You could write a message on the back. So I'll show you how I did this one. I'll tell you what I used in this one, and then I will show you how to do your own. So for here, I embossed the words, "No matter the weather, we're friends forever," in black embossing powder. Heat embossed it on vellum, so you can see that's vellum. And then I stamped and punched out the umbrella in balmy blue. There's a border of balmy blue in the background as well, and the handle is in basic black. Then here, I've stamped images from the Under My Umbrella stamp set, the rain and the boots, and the rain or shine, you're always on my mind. This was punched out of that paper, and I colored it with the blends. So this one, the umbrella and the handle are cut out of the paper, but you could easily stamp those and punch them out. I stamped the flowers. I stamped some just straight onto the cardstock, and other ones I put on Whisper White cardstock, colored them all in with blends, and fussy cut around them. And this one says, "Life showers brings love's flowers." This one here, I used some designer series paper. So the other side of that paper looks like that. It's got raindrops. And again, I punched out an umbrella, stamped it with showered with love and basic black in tuxedo black. And so I used some little heart gems, little clear heart there. Those are available in the catalog. I will be listing all the products used at the bottom of the video, and I will be doing a blog about the card that I'm going to show you today. And then this is the one from Beautiful You. Colored it with blends, a few little raindrops above there. This one here, I did some sponging. I punched a circle and then used that to sponge, and then put the blue over it. That blue was actually cut out from behind this front piece of balmy blue, because I don't like to waste paper, so I'd cut that out before I stuck the front on, and just the umbrella there. And then Live with Passion, Laugh Out Loud, and Love Deeply, again with the Beautiful You lady. The colors I've used in this one were the ones that matched the designer series paper that I used, and then just my name's on the back. So that's the little booklet there. It's really cute. You can decorate it however you like. That's my favorite page, with all the popped up little flowers in the umbrella. When you color it, if you color with blends, you need to color it before you put it together, which I'll show you, because it bleeds through, so you can see on the inside. Normally I don't show the inside of my cards, but it bleeds through. So if you've already stuck it together and then you go to color it, you need to put some paper underneath here while you color it in, because it would bleed through to the next page. So that's the one I've already done, and I'm going to show you how to prepare the little booklet, and I'm going to create one today using the Paint It Poppies and the Peaceful Moments stamps, along with matching designer series paper and dies. So let me get you started on that. So pop these guys away. So you start with one piece of paper. So A4, if you're in other countries, you might have letter size. Doesn't matter what country you're doing it in. Me being in New Zealand, we use A4, and I will talk about metrics and as well as inches, and I'll put it all on to my blog post as well. So you start out with whatever your normal size piece of paper is. Here it's A4, and so then you want to score it in half. So half of this is 10.5 centimeters, which is approximately 4 1/8 of an inch. So make sure you're using the, put that down there, you can see it a bit better. So make sure you're using the gray handle when you do this on our trimmer, on the Stampin' trimmer, because that's the score. So score that, and then you want to score it in half the other direction. So that turns out to be 14.85 centimeters, or 5 7/8 of an inch. So we don't have the 8.5 on there, so I've just got to eyeball it. Okay. Then turn your paper over, and now you want to score it at 7 1/4. So basically you now want to score half of that area and half of that area. Okay, so it comes out to kind of a weird metric number, but it's about 2 7/8, which is about just under 7.5. So I will do that, and that's a score. And then you would score this side at 8 3/4, or 22.275 centimeters. But instead of doing that, I'll just turn it around this way and score it the same as I did the other side, which was 2 7/8, which is just under 7.5. So it's 7.42. Okay, so try to be as accurate as you can with that. So now we've got all our score lines. So we fold it in half that way, and then the other ends get folded up. So you might need to wiggle it into place, because you want it to be as close to accurate as possible, and it doesn't always score neatly. So I'm just going to try to get that up to the edges there. Oh, not wanting to cooperate. The other thing, I don't know if I've already mentioned, you want to do this with thin whisper white. You don't want thick cardstock. It's not good to use, because it doesn't make it easy to fold it. Okay, so there, and then this side we're going up. You can see that side looks like it's gone up nicely and scored pretty accurately. Okay, and then fold it that direction, which is in half. That should be 10.5. And most of you that make cards know that sometimes even when you score it, it can be off fractionally. Okay. So once you have that all done, you want to fold it this direction. So we've got the scores going that way, and you want to cut down that center just to here. Now you can just use your scissors to do that, but I find it's just as easy to get the trimmer back out. And I know that's 10.5 because that's where it was, the score line was made. So I put that line over here at 10.5. This time I'm using the brown blade part. And with the new trimmer, you can cut through multiple pieces of cardstock. So this is perfectly fine to cut through there. You only want to go down to that first score line. So you just slide it down, and you can see through the plastic there where your score line is. And that is actually our booklet all prepared, believe it or not. So that's just cut from the top part to the score line. So now what you do is, if you hold these two bits here and just fold it like that, then you can push the front forward and the back back, and there's your book. Now you have to wiggle it into place a little bit. The alignment sometimes is a bit off because, again, of the cardstock, and that you've got more coming from behind, so it takes a little bit there. But see how when I fold it, you have that extra bit sticking out? Do not cut that off. What's the best thing to do is put some adhesive there and glue that into place before you fold your book, and then it'll hold it where we want it to be. However, you want to decorate your book. Now you can make your booklet and then decorate it afterwards, but if you're doing anything that, like with the blends, it would bleed through. So it's better to decorate your book when it's flat. So prepare it and then leave it flat to decorate. Now, what I did is I made a cheat sheet just out of a piece of scrap paper. Did the same thing, fold it long ways, fold it that way, then I folded these two bits up. That gave you all the folds, and then cut that section like I showed you already, and then that makes your booklet. And the nice thing with using the cheat sheet on the piece of paper is you can then mark what's on which page, because looking at it here, you couldn't just stamp, stamp, stamp all the same direction, because some items would be upside down. So if you have a look at my cheat sheet here, it shows that the front and the back are next to each other, and here they're upside down, and then we've got 2 pages there, there, and there. So this helps you to figure out what's going to go where if you stamp it before you put the booklet together. And I went so far as to actually write a few little notes on the back, because I'm going to use a different stamp set to create this booklet. So I've got a few notes on the back so I can remember what I want to do with this book. Okay, so hopefully you're all with me so far. And I'm just double checking which way I want to go. And it does take a little bending, etc., to get some of the parts into place. Some of them don't fold very well into place. So if you find that, you can just go back and burnish them. Okay, I'm just giving a bit of extra burnishing before I start my stamping. Okay, so looking at that, and I've got my cheat sheet here, which I'm just going to put out of sight so I know what I'm doing. I'm going to turn it around actually. So I'm going to start with the front here and the back page, which I'm going to leave blank. So what I've already pre-decided what I want to do. If you're going to do any designer series paper or cardstock on any of the pieces, you just need to measure them up and then just make the section slightly smaller. So in this case, I decided I wanted to use a pretty designer series paper, which is the Peaceful Poppies designer series paper, which is in the current mini catalog. And I'm using colors as listed there. I'm also going to use the Painted Poppies bundle and the Peaceful Moments bundle, as well as some of the Peaceful Poppy elements and the Whisper White seam binding ribbon. So everything on page 25 of the mini catalog, minus the sequins, I'm going to be using here. So I've already cut everything down to size. If you want to put something with the white border or whatever cardstock you're using with the border around the edge, then I've cut my pieces to 9.8 by 7 centimeters, and then the designer series paper would be slightly smaller. So I've got a black background, and I've got a black matte and the designer series paper. Now, when I use designer series paper, like I showed you on the other booklet, I don't like to waste the part that's not going to be seen. So quite often I'll punch something out or cut something out of the center that I'll be using later on. So for this one here, for the front, I've decided that's how I'm going to do the stamping there. The image is there, but I want to stamp on vellum the words, "These are the moments we'll look back on with joy," and then I'll be cutting it out using this spiral, kind of a swirly spiral, which is from the paint, which dies? It's from the Painted Labels dies. So, before I do that, I'm going to emboss it in black. So, if you're going to emboss anything, you should use your embossing buddy and just gently rub over it. It's got a bit of powder on there. It takes off the static electricity, so the only thing that will stick to it is what you want to stick to it. Alright, so we sell the embossing buddies. It's quite handy. It also takes stickiness off of anything that's got too much stickiness from your adhesives. And then you want to use Versamark ink, which is see-through. It's clear, but it's very, very sticky. So what you do, if you haven't done heat embossing before, is you gently tap your words. You don't want to rock it because you don't want the adhesive to go onto the edges of the stamp. So gently stamp it. I always pick it up and let a little light shine on it to make sure it's all inked up, because there's no color here. The only way you can see if it's inked up is to see the reflection on it. So ink it up a bit. Figure out about where you want it based on your die. So I want it to be about that far down. So stamp it nice and firm. It's going to be nice and sticky. I'll just put the cap on there while I'm doing this. And you don't want to leave it too long because you don't want it to dry. So you can't really see anything. I'm not sure you can gently see in the light. See, you can sort of see the words. And the magic happens when you put the powder on it. So you can put whatever powder, embossing powder you want, whatever color you'd like. I'm using the black. And I just leave mine into in a little container because then I can just pour it on top. And don't worry if you're using too much because it only sticks where the Versamark is. So once you got it on there, I just give it a tap on the back, and then you see there's the powder. Okay, so the powder, if I touch it now, it'll rub off. So I need to go take my heat gun and heat it to make it solid. So I will go do that now, and I will come back. So if you do it in a container or on a piece of paper, then you can just simply pour your powder back, and you don't waste any, and that can be used another time. So I'm going to go heat this up, and after I heat it up, I'm going to then cut it out with this shape. So I will do that, and I'll be back. Okay, so I've heat embossed it, and the black is kind of shiny now, and I cut it out with the vellum. So that's just going to go sitting there. Now, the one trouble with adhering vellum is you can usually see where you've stuck things down. So, like I wouldn't use a dimensional, you'd see right through there. So the best tip I have for you is use a few glue dots, but put them strategically in places that are underneath words so you won't be able to see them. So I'll stick this down, and to make things quicker, I'm just going to use my liquid glue Tombow. Yep, right to the edges. So that's roughly in the center there. And then I'll just put that down. Another thing some people do is they just rub a bit of the Tombow on the back of the vellum to hold it in place, because if you do it thinly and rub it so it's not lines like I just did back there, you know, with those, you could see those lines, you don't necessarily see it. But I'm going to use a few glue dots and my take a pick tool. And just find a couple areas. Just, I might even scrunch that glue dot up. So I'm kind of manipulating the glue dot to make it a bit smaller. And I'm just going to pop it somewhere not that noticeable. Just shape it into the letter so won't see it very well. And being vellum, it's not very heavy, so you don't need a lot on there to hold it. Might put a bit right there. The glue dots do stretch a bit, so you can manipulate them to where you want. I'll take another glue dot here and push that up slightly. Let's see if I can get it there. Okay. So that's really the only bad side with vellum, is the fact that you can usually see how you adhere it. So, and the reason I did this is because I wanted you to be able to see the pretty background there. So we'll just pop it, I'd say about center. Okay, so you can't really see where I put that adhesive dots. Okay, so now I'm going to turn this around and concentrate on the first 2 pages, which is going to be here. All right, so my first 2 pages, hold on a second, I'm just going to clean this because I'm going to need extra blocks for everything. So my first 2 pages I would like to put the poppies on because they'll be facing each other. So the poppies happen to be just the perfect size to go onto the page. They fit perfectly at the bottom. Just try not to bend that while I stamp it. There we go, that's better. So I'm going to do that in the Memento Tuxedo Black. It's my favorite go-to black ink. It's also good if you're doing anything with blends because it won't smear the ink, because Memento is a water-based ink and blends are alcohol pens. So I turn it over, check that everything's where I want it to be, and I'm just going to place this roughly towards the bottom. Okay. I'm just giving it good pressure because I don't want to pull it up and find I've missed a spot. Lovely. Now, to do the other side, I don't want to accidentally go over the edge, so I'm actually going to hold it down flatter, and I'm going to do the same poppies on the other side because these 2 pages will be facing each other. This is page 1 and 2. Okay. I find also with the poppies I want you give it a bit more ink because you want to make sure that they the centers get nice and dark. I really like the poppy set, but yeah, sometimes the centers don't come out very dark. Okay. Sorry if I'm wobbling the screen. I don't have the best setup for holding the camera, but at this stage I can't go out and get anything better. Okay, now somehow I wobbled at the bottom there, but that's okay. Alright, so that's poppies, and then get that cleaned off. I am going to do the words, and the words I want to use here is the life is better with a friend like you. Now if I place it there, I might get it onto the seam, and so I want to stamp part of it there and part of it here. I'm not sure if I want to go center with it. Or if I would just want to go just either side. I'm thinking I want to go either side of the line. So if you're going to do that, the best thing you can do is use some washi tape, unless you're really good at eyeballing things. Because I don't want all the words to go at the same time. So either washi tape or a post-it note is useful, because I only want to ink up half at a time. So I think I might do the post-it note thing. So no, that's not sticking very well. Okay, we'll do the washi tape. Washi tape. Okay. So take a little bit of washi tape and just cover the part that you don't want, because see, that F on friend is very close to the A, and I don't want that to get inked up. So I've put tape over just the part I don't want to ink up, and so I'm not going to put it straight in the middle. That would be a waste of ink. I'm just going to ink up the part I want. So I'm just inking up that half of the word. Okay. And then the big trick is, don't forget to remove your washi tape, because if you stamp it that way. So now I've got everything inked up, and I'm just going to put this just slightly I should have used the Stamparatus for this, but we'll just try it. Okay. Okay, so life is better with A. And now I need to clean that off with my chamois. Now this time I'm going to use a different piece of washi tape, because I don't want that black ink to get anywhere. So another piece of washi tape. This time I want to tape up the letter A and that side of it. Okay, so this time I've taped up the other side so I can get the friend part. And again, you don't want to ink up the entire stamp, because you don't want all of that, you just want part of it. Okay, so remove the washi tape. Could have probably done a longer piece. And now this is where I have to try to align it. Okay, hopefully line that up properly. There we go. Close enough. Not exactly straight, but that's where Stamparatus probably would have helped. Would have probably been a very good idea. But, I mean, that's close enough. So that's those two pages done in the black. And I just wanted to add a bit of color to them. Now the stamp set's really good, giving you options of color. Just need to find a block to use. So in the stamp set we have these little splotches of color we can use. So I find that I could just use the little one, and I'll just do some splotches in the Poppy Parade color. So we're going to do some Poppy Parade. So that's just like a little splotch of color. And I have mentioned in other videos that you can test things first, you know, on the paper to see how you like it. And I'm just thinking I might just try it stamped off to start with. And just a few splotches. I might turn that up a bit. So if you do the stamping off, just don't forget to carry on doing the stamping off, because it will be noticeable if you forget that part of it. So this is just going to give me kind of a interesting coloration, kind of a watercolor, bit of a wash going on there. And I just turn the stamp every once in a while to give me some other interest going on. So like now I'll turn it around the other way. So I'm not concerned about getting all the colors done. Just a bit of color going in a few spots. So if you can, I'll pull it up to the camera in a minute so you can have a better look at what's going on there. And maybe a bit there. And yeah, that's probably good enough. So I've just got some bits of color splotched all over there, kind of mimicking the paper. See how the paper up there has got that. So what I can do now is I can clean that and then do a few color splotches at the bottom. There is a bigger little splotch there, but I'm choosing not to use that. I'm going to clean the little one and just do some splotches in the green. Now there's two greens that I'm using for this card, and that match the color. There's the Old Olive and the Mossy Meadow. So I think on this side I'm going to go with more of the subtle and go with the Mossy Meadow. Put some on my finger. Okay, so it's the same exact stamp, so you could just practice a bit, see what you think. It's not that dark, so I might just go and just turning it whichever way I want to go. So it just gives you that little hint of color in a few of the areas. And so, sorry I'm not talking, I'm concentrating. It's one way to get me to get quiet. Make me concentrate. And just a bit more there, maybe some off the edge. Okay, so that just gives you some random splotches, just to add a bit of color and interest to that page. I might add more afterwards. Not sure. Let's see how we get on. So at this point, there's the front of our book, and there's the first 2 pages. Life is better with a friend like you. Okay, so now we've got our next 2 pages, which is page 3 and 4. And so for this one, I thought I'd do something slightly different. I quite like the look of this card here with the cutout section. So we're going to give that a go. And what I did first is I practiced on a bit of scrap to see which background designer series paper I liked. And so that's always a good idea, practice on a bit of scrap paper to see what you think it's going to look like if you don't already have a sample. So that's what I'm going to have, but it has to be behind there. So that's another reason why you don't put the card together straight away. So pardon my reach. So this is the die that comes, there's lots of lovely dies in this one, which is the Poppy Moments dies. So this one has all sorts of different size poppies, leaves, and this interesting cutout section. These dies do not match the stamped poppies from the stamp set. These are bigger. They just give you different ideas of poppies. So like you can cut a background in one color and then you cut the details, so you can put together a large poppy. You could put together a smaller poppy if you want. There's a smaller one. There's leaf elements, so you can do two different leaves that can just sit alone or they will overlap, so you can have different leaves. And there's even some other little bits that do the center of, these little bits can do the center of the little poppies. Some people have been using these little bits here to create cards that look like the coronavirus. See how they've got little bits coming out the edges? Yeah, so some demonstrators have been doing that, which is quite interesting, seeing the cards. There's also a few other little bits here. This is like a little leaf. You can have it as a leaf, or if you cut out the part, the circular, the oval part, you can have like a little bud of a poppy. And there's even another one that does just the top part of the leaf, which again could be a leaf, or you could then put your little bit together there to create another piece of a poppy. So I've cut all those because I'm not sure if I want to use them, but I just wanted to show you all the different choices you had on that die set. But I'm definitely going to use this, and I'm going to place it on this section here. So I'm going to go die cut that now, and then I'll come back and show you how I decorated that. Okay, I'm back. Now, one thing I hadn't thought of when I decided to do the cutting is that this is too wide to go through the big shot. So I had to fold the top down and do it. You can see it's got a bit grubby on the back, which also left a slight impression on the other page. So hopefully that's not going to be that noticeable when we do it. So that's an idea for you, is if you are planning to do any cutouts like that, it might not necessarily work that way, so it might be better to cut that out on a separate piece of cardstock and place it down. But we'll stick with the idea that I originally had. So this is going to be peeking through. So I'm going to have that peeking through the background. Okay, so to do that, I just need to put some tape around the edges. And I don't need a lot because I'm going to tape the whole thing shut. So we'll just put, for now, we'll just put a couple bits just to hold the paper in place. But in the end, this will be taped shut. So I will put the tear and tape on the edge anyway, because the side will be taped shut. And so that will probably be enough for those sections. Maybe just a little bit right across there. Okay, so this I'm just going to pull up the bits that'll hold the paper in place. Yeah, so you could still do the peek through, but better way to do it is not to cut it straight into the card, because you get that image here, as well as trying to peel it off the card doesn't necessarily work. Okay, so I'm just going to have that to hold it in place for the moment. So come in from behind, just look what parts you want to have peeking through, and making sure we've got all the white bits, all the bits covered up. There we go. That should, yeah, I'll probably go up a bit. That's good enough. That'll hold it in place for now until we stick the card together. Okay, so that's coming through there. Now on this side, my plan is to page 1, 2, and my plan is to have a poppy. Okay, so I'm going to stamp a couple poppies, which I'm going to use on the other pages, but I'll stamp them now as well. So on a bit of scrap, I'm going to do the poppy stamp in Memento, and then I'll be cutting that out. And then also for another page, I want to have this single poppy as well. So I'll stamp these two now. And yeah, I do have something on the other side because I didn't have a spare block. There we go. So again, with this, because in order to get the center nice and black, I give it quite a bit of pressure, especially in the center, and double check to see it's nice and black. And then if I'm going to cut something out with the die on scrap, I always just check kind of roughly where I can place it with the die beforehand. So I'm just going to give that nice good pressure, especially on the center black part, to try to get all that black ink to go. If it doesn't, you can touch it up with a black pen afterwards. That turned out pretty good. And then I want to cut this poppy out with this shape. So I'm going to do it on this side. I've got plenty of room there. And I want it to be roughly centered. So again, trying to get as much black on the center of the poppy sections. Okay. And right about there, so move that out of the way. And center that. There we go. And just putting extra pressure on those black spots. There we go. That looks good. Okay. So now, before I go cut this out, I am going to, so the single flower, my inspiration was this card that I had created already. So I colored the stem in, but I used that same stamp just to give it a few splotches, that little stamp. So I'm going to go there with that one. This flower, because it's going to be the opposite side of here, I'm going to use the rich raspberry ink. And there's a lovely stamp from the set. The stamp here, a big blob, that you can fit right over the poppies to give you a bit of, again, a bit of watercolor. So it doesn't give you a solid image. And so just stamp it, ink it up. So you see it doesn't look like it's inking all the way, but it is. And again, I test it. The other reason I do that is I do want some of it to come off. I don't want it to be too dark. So it doesn't go perfectly aligned, but what you can do is you can just stamp a few times. So you stamp it and then you stamp off on right onto it. So it's called generational stamping. So you've got the first generation, then the second time you stamp is second generation, third time you stamp is third generation, etc. So it gives it that kind of watercolor look, and that matches closer to the color of the poppies that are going to be on the opposite page. So that's why I did that. Okay, now this one I will color that in with my pens, and I will stamp. Actually, because it's the opposite side, I'm going to stamp it with that color. I don't know why I put that color away. So I just have to get that stamp. Where did I put it? Oh, there it is. So for this one, I'm going to do a similar thing. And so this shapes quite nicely. So what I can do is just try to go center it over there. And I'm just doing the first generation, and then I'm going to turn it round and do a second generation stamp. And then I might even do a third. So it just gives you kind of a splotchy coloration there. And if you want to give it a try, you can even try to do what I did on the other one. See if I can get it to work this time. Okay, so taking up most of that ink. Might just clean it. So right here, there's a few little splotches. I'm just going to ink that bit up, just where those splotches are. And then I'm going to try and just splotch it right onto that little flower. Yeah. So I just did a few splotches in and around that little flower. Okay. So those are the colors because they're going to be, oh, they're not going to be opposite pages. I just realized that's for another page. I think it is. Okay, that color will change in a moment, but that's the color I want. So I was thinking the right thing. Okay, what the other one I want to do is stamp the leaves on the page. So I will be right back with the leaves. So the leaves I'm going to stamp. Put this away before I get myself in more trouble. I will be die cutting that in a moment. And I want to stamp some leaves onto this page because I'll be putting that big poppy on there. So I just want a few leaves, and this will be the leaves I'm going to use. And I think I will go with the Old Olive. I really like Old Olive. That's one of my favorite greens. So I'm going to do some leaves. Now keeping in mind I'm going to be putting the flower like roughly about there. I kind of thought I would pop the leaves coming down so the flower can be sitting up near the center. And just double check I got ink where I want it. So just giving that a little, so the flower will be sitting there. So I've just gone with 2 leaves. Just stamp that off before I clean it. That just helps when you clean it if you stamp it off. Okay, so that's that one done. Okay, so those 2, I've just got to cut the flower. So then we will come back. So I will do those. Okay, so one thing I want to do is color some gems to put onto these flowers here. Now, we used to have black gems for sale, but we no longer have that. So if you don't have the color you want, you simply use your Stampin' Blends. So I'm using dark black Stampin' Blends and color in a few of the jewels that you want to use. So I want to pop them in the center of these flowers. 1, 2, 3, 4, about 5 of them. And as you can see, I do this quite a lot. What you do is you just, while it's still on the paper, just color over the gem. This works with the pearls as well, and just leave it for a while to dry. Make sure you get right around the edges. It's not super black, but it gives you enough black to give it a bit of sparkle. So I'm not quite sure which size I'm going to use, so I will do some of the medium ones as well. And it's best to leave that to dry for a bit because you don't want to pick it up and get it onto your fingers straight away. The other thing I want to color while I've got my black Stampin' Blend out is ribbon, because I will be using, pop that there to dry, I will be using some of the crinkled seam binding, which comes in Whisper White. It's fabulous for coloring with blends. You could even just rub it through your ink pad if you want, but that is water-based, so it might come out. So I'm going to use, put a bit of scrap paper down, and I'm just going to color it with black because I want to have a bow on one of my sections in black. So I just hold it on there and just rub it through. Make sure you do have paper underneath it because it does bleed through. And you could go with, you know, the lighter color if you want, but I want it to be nice and dark. And you don't need to color both sides because hopefully you can see that. It bleeds right through. So when you go to do the other end, you just got to watch out you don't get too much ink on your fingers when you're holding it. So you can just hold it and rub it through. Okay. There you go. So that's nice and black. And I'll leave that to dry for a bit as well, over with my jewels. So I'll be using that later. I've already pre-cut that to be the length I need to tie my bow. So this section here, what are we working on there? Okay, so I've gone and I've cut out that flower that will be on that section there. And I will leave that for a moment because I'm waiting for the jewels to dry. So the other sections, we'll turn it around the correct way. So these are the other two, the final two pages, which is page 5 and 6. And what I want to do here is I'm going to put some designer series paper I've already pre-cut from the Poppy. I've already pre-cut from this framelit. That's from the Painted Labels dies. So I've already cut the old olive to layer there, and then I redid. So originally I did the purple, and I realized no, it's going to be on that paper, so I wanted it to be the Poppy Parade. So I redid that in Poppy Parade and colored the stem in with the old olive. And so I've gone and I've cut the same shape. Now, if I were to put them on top of each other, obviously you can't see the green. So when I die cut this, I ran it through, and then I ran it back through again, and you could even do it maybe 3 or 4 times. The reason for that is so I can get a very distinct edge on here, and I'm going to use that as a guide for cutting. So I'm going to cut close to that line there, so you can see there's that little line there. I'm going to cut close to that line. I could use my trimmer if I want it to get straight cut, but the trouble is when you come to the curves. So you can have the straight cut there, but when you come to the curves, you need to, you could use a circle punch and just do a half circle there if you want, but it doesn't give you the exact right curve. So I'm just cutting around here. Hopefully you can see that. Just around the inside, and that will give us just enough to be able to see the green. So because we're not going to see the rest of the green, normally I would just die cut something out from the inside of that, like maybe a leaf or something, because as I said, I don't like to waste cardstock, especially if you're not going to see it. But for here, I think I'll just leave this as is. And then just cut around there. Hopefully you can see this. I don't know if I've been cutting off the camera or not. So those are my script bits. Okay, so I've just cut, oh, sorry about that. I've just cut around the inside lines, and now it will fit, just giving us enough of that edge there. Okay, I just might fix up. My curves aren't very curvy. Let me just fix that up a little bit. Oh, don't know if I'm making it better or worse. Hard to cut a curve. That's why the circle punch sometimes is useful. Okay, I think that's probably as good as it needs to be at the moment. So that gets layered there, and this is where I want the black bow. So I'll wait for that to dry, but I'll stick these two bits together now, and I'll place that one down. Just use a bit of glue. So if you're looking for solid colors, the back of this designer series paper is quite nice because you get those nice solid colors, but they have a little like watercolor look. So they're not completely solid, but if you're looking for that kind of color or image. Oh. And get some glue on there just to hold it. So notice I turned it round, because if I didn't turn it round I'd have them go in the wrong direction. So I turned my paper around, and this one's just going to layer right about in there. And then, since I didn't already color this old stem with the blends, it didn't bleed through, so I was able to turn the cardstock over and just reuse it. That's why you always stamp before you adhere things. In case it messes up and you need to redo it. So I'm just gonna line that up. So that looks like it was meant to be. Okay. And that'll be sitting there. I'll leave the black to dry for a little bit longer. And the other side, I'm going to do the Designer Series paper. That's Mossy Meadow, which is another color that matches the paper. And these are from the Poppy elements. So you get, in there you get some black elements, you get some sheets of different card already pre-printed. You get some vellum sheets, and you can color the vellum, you can put it straight on there. So if you have a close look, hopefully you can see the lines there. So pre-printed vellum that pops out. And you get watercolor paper that has, you can see the shininess there, pre-printed images on there as well, which is great. You can color right on there with any watercolor techniques that you use. And there's a sample. So there I've just colored that with red and then just went over the center with a bit of black. That was the black blends to keep it, to make the center pop, but you can see the little outline. So the elements are a good thing to invest in. You also get some different black shapes, but I've already used, that shows some of them there. I've already used those in other projects, so I don't have that there. So the thought for that is I'm going to pop this black, was pre-cut with the I cut that with a die. So that's the die there, nice shape there. So I've cut that one just to put behind my little element to give it a bit of interest onto the Mossy Meadow. Now I am thinking of putting words, and I'm going to use one of the dies from the Stitch So Sweetly set. And the words I want to do are wishing you every happiness. Excuse me. I don't want this special day will bring. I only want the top part. So as I showed before, what you can do is you can put washi tape over there, or if you're really good at stamping, you could just ink it up just the part that you want. But the best thing to make sure that you don't get ink where you don't want it is just to put washi tape over. And putting washi tape's fine because it's not very sticky, so it doesn't leave a residue. And when you clean your stamp after you've inked it up, any residue might be there will be gone. So see, I've put the washi tape right up to the edge. I'm just pushing down under those P's. So I just want that top part. Again, a bit of scrap. And I want to stamp it into that shape so I can see, yep, I've got enough room over here. Let's ink it up in black. Okay. Nice inked up. Make sure you take the washi tape off. Now see, I actually got a little on there, so I'm going to wipe that bit off and make sure I get that bit off. So I don't want black going where I don't want it to stamp. Just okay, sorry about that. I just wanted to make sure I got that washi tape thrown away before it was too late. Okay, so I'm just going to stamp that where I want it to go. remembering that I want the happiness to be on there. Okay, so it should only put the ink. Another way you can do this is you can take your Stampin' Write pens and use those to put ink on the parts that you want, but you have to make sure that you huff on it. There you go. So that just put the words I wanted. And so now I'm going to, hopefully it wasn't too high. Oh, it might have been. Oh, I'll have to redo that because it's going to be too high and it's going to miss out. Oh. That's why you stamp first, because then if you have something that doesn't come out. I'll see if I can get that to fit. See how it looks. I'll be back in a moment. Okay, I managed to just squeak it through, just enough space. So probably should have picked a bigger piece of cardstock to stamp on, but managed to get it in there. Might not be straight, but that's okay. So the plan for this is to pop that one up there. Now I was just, that might be fine. The other thing is with those dies, there's also this interesting little intriguing die. And so I've already cut out a little black shape just in case I want to pop that somewhere. And I'm just thinking maybe I'll pop that down there just to give a bit more interest to the page. So I'm thinking that might look either straight at the bottom or maybe up a bit. So that's what I'm thinking of doing at the moment. I think that looks pretty good. Not sure if I'd like it better all the way down. So I'm going to stick all these elements on here, and then I will put it on the page. With these little skinny bits, you can use the fine tip glue pen, which is good for those, but you don't really need to glue down the little bumps as long as that strip is glued down, because the bumps aren't going anywhere. Nobody's going to be pulling at your card. So you only need to get that little strip. So just a little bit of Tombow is sufficient. So I think I decided I'm going to stick it down just above the bottom. And the Tombow gives you wiggle room, so you can move it into place if you want. Okay. Now I'm going to stick that in place there. So even though I had that impression here when I did the die cut, it doesn't matter because I'm covering up that section with cardstock. So I'll just pop that Mossy Meadow cardstock in there. Try to line it up evenly with the page next to it. Okay, so stuck that down, and I think I might, let's go with the words, pop the words up a bit. On a booklet like this, you definitely, you want to use dimensionals, but the large and the small have different thicknesses. So I might go with the small ones just to give it a bit not as thick, so it doesn't pop up quite as much, and that way the booklet can shut better. So just a few in the corners there and one in the center. Alright, so and I'll just pop that up. Okay, so wishing you every happiness. Keeping in mind I've got that down there. Okay, and I'll just stick this guy down, a little bit of glue on it. It does have little corners. So when you place it down, you either place it with the corners going that way or the other way around. So unlike some shapes where it's not very noticeable which direction they go, And here we will, when I get to the end, I cut my little dimensionals, little strips of the edges, so I use every little bit of them. So I just get interesting shapes out from the sides, and that way you don't waste any of your dimensionals. Because I don't like to waste materials, especially for times like this when we're in a lockdown and therefore I can't get my hands on anything else anytime soon. So that's just ways to save on materials and also to save a bit of money. So that's going to pop down right here. There we go. So those are the same height because I use the same dimensionals. So because I put height on there, I don't really want to put height on here because it would just be too tight of a squeeze. So I'm just going to glue this straight down. And those are the kind of things you need to try to think about when you're putting your booklet together. So we'll pop that there. And then hopefully this is dry. Let's see, do the test on my fingers. I don't know if it's coming off my fingers. Not really. Okay, so I'm going to try the bunny ear technique. So apparently you do 2 loops, and then you put 1 loop, tie 1 loop around the other loop. That's what's supposed to work. I don't know how well this is going to work. Oh, there we go. It did work. Then just fiddle with it till you get it into the shape you want. So there's lots of different tricks and techniques for doing bows. Some people love doing bows, some people have trouble doing bows. I am pretty good with bows, but I'm a picky person and I like them to be like a certain shape and size and stuff. So that bunny ear technique, the whole point for that is it gets you your little legs basically to hang downwards, where sometimes when you tie bows the ribbon goes out the side. So the point of that was to have that go there. Not sure I'm quite liking that now that I did it. But we'll go with it. Just making it a bit smaller. So where's my scissors? I'll just do a snip snip. Snip there and snip there. And a little glue dot on the bottom. You stick it in place. So with glue dots, before I picked it off and put it on what I want, but the best thing to do is actually press it onto the glue dot and then pick it up. That's the easiest way to do it, instead of taking it off and fiddling with it with your fingers, because then it's on the back of what you want. And I'm just going to pop that down like it's tying the 2 of them together. Alright, so nearly done here. So we will turn it around and go back to the first few pages. So my gems should be dry. So you can get the gems, and I'll just pop some gems where I want them to go. So they're sticky on the bottom, and I'll just pop one there, and another one, maybe another big one there, and then a couple small ones. And so that way, it doesn't matter if you don't have the right color gems, just get your blends out, and you can do lots of things. Okay, so that's good. And then this side, that color, so it doesn't matter what that color is, because those pages face each other. These 2 pages face each other here. So I was thinking I'll put that flower on there, but I would want to give it a bit more interest, so I was thinking I will pop. These are the die cut leaves, and these are the other leaves. The leaves that match that stamped image look like this, and then you can layer them if you have a different color, and you can layer the two together right on top of each other. They fit perfectly. There you go. So you can layer them on top of each other or use them separately. So I thought I was going to use one of those, but it just sticks out too far. So I've played around with it a bit, and I decided I don't want to keep playing around with it. So I'm just going to go with this. So I'm going to glue these leaves down. And then I'm going to pop the flower up, I think. So we'll just move that coming out to the corner as best I can. And then another one. So I know they're different shaped leaves, but I think it gives a bit of interest having the different elements, the die cut and the stamped parts. So you can have different look. But it's still old olive, so I made sure that I stuck with the same color cardstock as the ink that I used to stamp. So for here, I'm just going to pop a couple of these guys on. And now the flower can go any way you want, but you see how that's like bent up? So that could either be where the flower is bending down towards you, or it could just be the bottom of it curling up when it's opening, which is what I think it is. So that looks good there. So with that, I thought it looked a bit plain, so I'm thinking of stamping the Always Remember up at the top in black. The other option was to stamp it down here, but I don't have any words up there. Let's see, are there any other words? My other thought was I do like this one. Thinking of You With All My Heart. Could possibly put that up there and then have this one Always Remember. The other option would be to stamp that and maybe fussy cut it to go over there, because I think it might sit better. So I think I will do that. I think I have some cardstock left. Yes, I do. So I'll try that. It's always best just to try things when you're creating, so I might do that. And then I could fussy cut it to just sit up there, which I think would look lovely. I had thought about maybe putting a different element on there. Maybe one of the could have like one of the vellum elements or something, but the video is going to go too long if I take too long deciding, so I think I will go with that. Just do the Thinking of You With All My Heart, and I will fussy cut that, and then I will do the Always Remember. I think going down here looks good. Checking that I've got the ink, and then just do Always Remember down there. A little crooked. If it wasn't crooked, it wouldn't be me stamping it. Okay, so I will fussy cut that, and I will come back to show you the final part of it. Okay, so I fussy cut around the words, but I didn't like the white on white, so then I glued it onto some black cardstock, and then I fussy cut around there. And then that gives it a bit more interest there. And so for that, I'm just going to pop it up. Now, if you've got things on opposite pages that are going to be raised, as long as they're not right against each other, you can have them popped up. So I know when I fold this page shut, it's going to be over here, and it's not going to be touching the flower. So I can pop that up with dimensionals, and it'll be fine. So just pop a couple dimensionals on there, and we are almost done. I keep trying to do short videos, and it just does not work. Okay, so we're just going to put that right about there. It's overlapping slightly, but that's okay. You still get to see the background. Okay, so unless you want to put something on the back page, which, you know, I might do a lone flower or something, I'm not sure. That's it. So I didn't use any of the different shapes that I had die cut, but you can see what kind of shapes there are in that set. So now that you've got that together, what you need to do is you need to attach the two sides. So this is where we can take our double-sided tape off of this one, and here. And so you just need the two sides stuck together. You don't need the whole thing stuck together. And I'll put some tear and tape on this side as well. So you just want the two ends to stick down just to make it an even booklet, as well as so when they open it, it doesn't all flop open. So I'm going to do my tab thing on here. Okay, so then when you put it over, you want to make sure your edges come right together. Top and bottom edges, make sure they come right together. And the same at this side. Get the edges, the corners coming right together. Okay, so once those guys are together, then you make sure you can fold it. It takes a little bit of manipulating to come together because the back page doesn't want to fold very well. And as well as the fact that we've got layers in here. So you could, you know, like I said, stick it together like I did my first one. I stuck it all together and then I decorated it. But it depends on how you're going to decorate it, because if you're going to have any cutout pages, you definitely want those to be done before you stick it together. And there we go. It's quite a thick book. If you want it to stay shut, you could put like a little latch there. The front and my center are just not quite coming together. That's good. Okay. So there we go. So these are moments we'll look back with joy. Then you open up. Life is better with a friend like you. Oh, sorry, make sure you can see that. And then always remember, thinking of you with all my heart. Now, as I said, these two, because they're not touching each other, when they come together, they're not being any thicker because they're not bumping each other. And then we've got wishing you every happiness with the little poppy there. And the back page is where I always stamp my company name, and I write Stampin' Up. So if you're going to sell anything, you have to have the Stampin' Up copyright on the back page. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed that little card there. And I'll just show you, these were the stamp sets and the matching dies that we used. The Painted Poppies and the Peaceful Moments, along with the Poppy Moments dies. And we used the, where are they? I hide them in my, and we used the Painted Labels dies in the colors. The inks I used the Rich Razzleberry and Poppy Parade and Old Olive, and the cardstock was those colors, including Basic Black. I used the Memento Tuxedo Black ink, and I used Basic Black cardstock and Mossy Meadow cardstock. and I did the black heat embossing. So I hope you enjoyed that. The other one that I had shown you earlier was the Under My Umbrella. So those are the two little booklets. Kind of hard to show you them sitting up. So if you like that, please give me a thumbs up. Have a look at my blog. I will be putting up a blog about this with the measurements and explanations and the products used. Below this video, I will also have a list of the products used for both of these projects, except for that DSP because it's no longer available. So you can look there if you're looking for these specific products so you can recreate this. If you live in New Zealand and you do not already have a demonstrator, please go to my website if you'd like to order any of these products. You can order directly to be sent to you, or if you'd like to contact me, you can do so and I can order for you, or if you'd like to come to classes. If you have any suggestions on other things you'd like me to do, please put it in the comments. I'm open to suggestions. I'm happy to recreate any projects or come up with new ones for you. And I've got lots of other lovely videos if you haven't already seen them. Go have a look. So thanks so much for watching, and you have a lovely day and happy Easter. Bye.